What's up, Internet? This is Rambling Josh, and that is Mammon, and you are watching another episode of Let's Play Quest 64. Today we take on the big dude, who doesn't really seem to have much of a face, and... Ha 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 ha. Yep. He apparently is a little overboard with the whole laughing thing. What exactly makes you think, like, why is he randomly decided that he is able to escape? I don't know. Now, with the right strategy, this fight is actually really easy. In fact, I would say that it's probably easier than both Guilty and Vegas. And said a correct strategy is to alternate between using Avalanche and Magic Barrier. The reason that's it makes it so easy is twofold. One, this guy is, like, obviously he's really big, so Avalanche actually hits him, like, a lot of times. Not that you can actually see it for the most part because of how big he is. And of course, Magic Barrier just means that you're not taking any damage at all. And the other thing is there's, you know, no fights after this, so you know from the get-go that you can literally go all out, use all of your restoration items, and you just don't have to worry about it. So basically the only danger in this fight is if you somehow end up without having Magic Barrier up, and you either because your Magic Barrier misses or you forget which ability you used the last turn. So, like, if you think you used Magic Barrier last time when you actually used Avalanche, and if that's the case, it's you're better off just casting Magic Barrier again and wasting your MP, because it's easy enough to restore it. I've got like a bajillion MP restoration items saved up because I saved them when I probably didn't need to. And the fact of the matter is, I mean, this battle's actually sort of short because one of the nice things about this fight is actually just the fact that Mammon, like, he doesn't walk at all. So a lot of enemies you have to spend time waiting for them to, like, move and stuff. But not this guy. And I was bad and was not watching my MP, so I had to use an MP restoration item on the turn when I should have been refreshing my Magic Barrier. But that's just what happens when you have such a simple, straightforward fight and you spend the whole time talking. The one thing I should note about this guy, though, is that a lot of abilities actually can't even hit him, just because his like head is so far back. Like, you can't hit him with, well, you might be able to hit him with the level 3 Water Pillar, but maybe not. I'm not sure. You definitely can't hit him with your staff, but he's already dead, so, you know, whatever. What? Why am I dying? Why is this flesh decaying? Oh, ha 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 ha. Why? Am I dying? Life. I hated it. This. Death. Peaceful. Sleep. I don't know who in the hell wrote Mammon's dialogue, but they seriously need to be, like, fired or something. I don't know. Who's exactly sent Shannon anyways? Sure. Sure, why not? Later. And that's the end of the game. Wait, what? Peace had slipped farther and farther away? Shouldn't peace be what we have now that we've killed the bad guy? Okay, I guess that's all good and everything. Yes, there are 4 elements. We kind of figured that out. Walk hand in hand? That's... okay. That's a kind of odd note to end the game on. So, this is the part where I talk about the game. I don't know, I mean, Quest 64 is a very strange game. It's just one of those games that it always got really bad press. Like, I think what it came down to is, for the longest time, Quest 64 was basically the only RPG on the Nintendo 64. It was... I know it was the very first RPG, and I don't think there were many, if any, that came... Well, no, there were definitely RPGs that came after it, but not many of them. So when it was coming out, people were really excited to kind of recapture... Because the Super Nintendo had tons and tons of amazing RPGs on it. So people were really excited to see what they could do with the Nintendo 64. And it ended up being, obviously, not the greatest game ever. So people were, I guess, really disappointed in it. And I think that kind of, what's the word? Like, it really kind of ruined their impressions of the game, I guess. And I always felt like it got a worse reputation than it deserved. Because I don't want to say it's not a terrible game, because it is, but it's not as bad as people make it out to be. Like, there's some very real potential in this game, and the systems and stuff that are in effect in the game are pretty good. I mean, the whole stat system, I like when games use that kind of stat system. The element system, it has real potential, because having the ability to choose which elements you strengthen, it gives you the ability to have like different builds and stuff, and that's interesting. And you can choose, you know, oh, I want to level up this spirit this far at this point in the story, and that's interesting. The music's really good. I don't know. I mean, there are good things to it, but obviously Quest 64 is not a very good game. I mean, it's actually a really interesting game to look at as, like, because I'm like, becoming a game designer is like my intended career path. I'm like going to school for game design and all that. The Quest 64 is actually a really interesting game to look at in that light, because it has potential, but it does so many things so wrong that, I mean, they say you learn more from your mistakes than your successes, right? So, I mean, what does Quest 64 do wrong? I mean, it's got a really big world that's like completely empty. There's very few things around the world to find and explore. There aren't many people to talk to, and when you do talk to them, they're not very interesting. The encounter rate is way too high, or not even too high necessarily, but it's way too random. The spells aren't very well balanced, the script is terrible, enemies move too slowly, the enemies are way too strong in some places, some enemies are way too weak in other places, some of the spells are just useless, but I guess that could go under balance. I mean, there's just a ton of different things, but I still always felt like the game had potential. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like, this game is a very frustrating game, especially towards the end of the game. Every time I've ever felt like, or played this game, I always felt like as I got towards the end, I've just felt like I want this game to be over with. But for a good portion of the game, it can be pretty enjoyable, and it's interesting to think about playing through the game using different like element build-up or setups. Where maybe next time I play through with wind and fire, and you can do it, and it can work. But when it comes down to it, earth and water are just so powerful because of magic barrier and healing that you just can't do it any other way. So that kind of ruins it. But I think it's an interesting. Quest 64 is an interesting game to look at, and I'm glad I played through it. And hopefully you are too.